Hello, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar entitled Conquering Information Chaos with Microsoft 365 and Harmony. Before we get started, here are a few important messages. During the webinar, you are welcome to submit questions via the chat window on your screen. We will try to answer the questions at the end of today's webinar. If we don't answer your question, don't worry, a Harmony person will answer you via email. For all those who are wondering, we will make a recording of this webcast available to you within a couple of days. You will get a link via email to the recorded webinar. I would like to introduce today's speaker, David Lavender, Harmony Chief Product Officer. David is an expert on information overload. His academic research has focused on the role of email in organization information overload. He has served in senior roles for a host of enterprise software, mobile security, and networking companies. David is also an award-winning technology and business writer and public speaker, including many years as a contributor to Fast Company, CMS Wire, and other leading press outlets. David is an international scholar for the Society for the History of Technology. David, please.
Thanks, Maya. So welcome to everybody today and joining today's webinar on conquering information chaos. To understand where information chaos comes from today, I mean, we've always had information chaos and lots of issues with handling and managing information, but a lot of today's problems stem from the COVID move to remote work. Gartner did a recently published an Audit Leadership Council in which they said that as organizations scale to scale the remote working capabilities, what they're seeing is fragmented storage systems, which is creating more of exposure to regulatory and data security risks. So we know that people that are working from home, one of the things that we saw, we recently did a webinar with one of our customers, the Employment and Social Development Department of the Government of Canada, and the director of IT there, of IT and information management, talked about the explosion of email inboxes when COVID hit. People working from home all of a sudden needed to have lots of information local. They didn't have information. Weren't able to access the information remotely, and this led to really a huge problem with handling information. Before we look at some of the specific aspects of this, let's go to a poll question.
What grade would you give your organization in dealing with the rising tide of information chaos? Please select one. Excellent, good, average, needs improvement, or poor. We'll see the results in a minute. David, do you see the results?
Yes. Okay. So looking at this, we see that only about 35% say that it's excellent or good, and the rest are average, needs improvement, or poor. I think these are pretty much industry numbers that have come out from that other people are seeing. So that jives pretty much with, I think, a general representation of what's happening in the market. So moving on to back to the slides. AIM did a similar. AIM is the Association of Intelligent Information Management. An industry organization did a similar survey of organizations, and they found very similar results to what we found here just in our quick survey. And that's organizations are losing the battle against information chaos, with about 75% of the companies saying that they're either doing just average or worse, and about 50% on the bottom half of the scale, which is pretty much what we saw here. And the trick is they say manual approaches to information don't work. And as I said, mentioned before, the webinar we did a couple months ago with our customer ESDC, the government agency of Canada, the head of information management said that the key in their organization, and I believe this is the key is going to be for all of us, is enabling our employees to do information management without knowing they're doing information management. The idea is, when you tell people to do manual approaches, to move information, to set things as records, it doesn't really work because people just want to do their jobs. They're not really interested. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today, is a pragmatic approach to how to do information management without knowing you're doing information management. Now, we're talking about a world where we're working with Microsoft 365. Microsoft 365 took off like gangbusters during the COVID lockdowns, going from about 13 million users beforehand to about 145 million users today. A lot of that was driven by the use of Teams. People working remotely needed some way to communicate with each other, and Teams was a godsend because it allowed you to set up virtual meetings within the auspices of Microsoft 365, the infrastructure that you're already using to do a lot of your internal work. So Teams was great, and that's really taken off. Yet one of the things that we find is that email is not going away. Email is going to stay, and the reason it's going to stay is it facilitates external communications. As good as Teams is, the vast majority of Teams usage today has been used for internal chats and for meetings, mostly virtual meetings. And it's not very good for communicating outside the organization. Now, I know people are going to say that there's guest permissions and you can set up people as guests. And yes, we even work this way with some of our suppliers. But at the end of the day, communications with outside parties like customers, suppliers, and partners is still very much an email for a variety of both societal and technical reasons. One of the major reasons is simply that with Teams, you can have a guest, but those people are guests on your network, which means that if you sever ties with those people, only one party retains the record of all the communications. Email is the only way that you can communicate with outside parties and still allow people to each side to have a full record of the communication. And that, if for no other reason, is a reason that email is going to be with us for a long period of time. Now, what this means is that we have now two apps in the Microsoft 365 world that we have to live with. Both of them provide fantastic services, but it makes information management and governance much, much more difficult in order to figure out how to handle this. What are the two problems? One of the problems is finding and discovering content in emails and documents. Email information now is spread across SharePoint, Teams, and Outlook, some of it internal, some of it external. If you have information that needs to be retained, finding that information now has become a bigger problem than it was before. Secondly, when you're working remote and you want to get help from colleagues, again, sometimes you're emailing them, sometimes you're working in Teams. Where is that conversation? Where is the information? How do you put the pieces together so that instead of people spend the day looking for information, they can focus on doing work and use the infrastructure, the fantastic Microsoft 365 infrastructure in a very structured but also very efficient and productive way. Before we can look at recommendations for how to do this using the Microsoft tools, really need to understand that there are three kinds of business emails. And we're focusing on emails, although a lot of times we're talking about document attachments. We would do a tremendous amount of different things with emails, and really emails can be broken down into three groups. So you have emails that are records. So things like records are perhaps a client sends you a proposal or a contract, which is a document of record. And these documents, I'll call them documents even though they're emails, need to be captured and classified so you can find them later. These are documents that are things like, again, contracts, proposals, client requests, commitments perhaps, invoices, things that you need to keep for business and be able to find them later on, for e-discovery, for audits, for all sorts of business reasons, and information managers are very well aware of these. Surveys that we've done in the past find that in most organizations, the amount of emails that fit into this bucket are probably 5 to 10% of the overall email volume. The second kind of emails you have are emails that you want to share into Teams to collaborate with colleagues. Status updates, These often are tasks. A lot of times we use email to create tasks. So we're working with colleagues, and you ask them to do something. You get a question from a client, you want to get some help from a colleague, you pass the email over to that colleague, and so on. So these are task-driven emails. They don't have the same retention requirements as the records, but you still do want to be able to work with these in an efficient manner. And truly, the vast majority of emails are what we call rot, or redundant, outdated, or trivial emails. And these are ones that you just need to delete to reduce the clutter. So looking at the tools that we have, really there are different ways to deal with the different types of emails. So the records that need to be retained today in Microsoft 365, the repository of record is SharePoint. You need to be able to store emails in SharePoint and set them as records. And we'll look at how Harmony 365, our new version of Harmony, facilitates this and makes it easy for people to do information management without doing information management. The second kind of email tasks are best used when you're having a conversation with someone in Teams, being able to pull an email into a Teams conversation, for which we have a new product, which is called Email Teammate. And I'll show a brief demo of how this works as well. So you're having a conversation with a colleague, talking about a customer request, and you want to pull in an email to share that to get the colleague's input. So we have these two products is what we're going to be focusing on, and showing how these products augment Microsoft 365 to enable people to do information management without doing information management, because they don't have to focus on the tools, they can focus on the task at hand. And that's what we're going to be introducing, Harmony 365. The overall
David, we have
concept.
another poll question.
Oh, sorry, Maya.
We have another poll question here. What percentage of your organization's emails need to be retained for record-keeping purposes, such as governance, compliance, or regulations? Please select one. None of the emails, 1 to 10%, 11 to 20%, 21 to 30%, or more than 30%. I see you are still answering, so we'll show the results in a second. Okay, David.
Okay, thank you, Maya. So we look here, we see that 1 to 10% is about a quarter, 11 to 20% is about a quarter, 21 to 30% is about 20%, and then more than 30%. So we actually have on this scale, I believe on the call, folks who have more of a need, I think, than the general public to store emails, which is good. This means that there's a high interest of the participants in today's call to look at how we store, retain emails for longer purposes. And that's exactly what I'm going to be showing. So let's move on and talk a little bit about how you do that with the Microsoft tools that you already have. So we're going to be introducing Harmony 365, which is a new version of our Harmony Outlook sidebar, and it's key in bringing Teams, SharePoint, and OneDrive, all the Microsoft 365 data repositories together within Outlook, so that people don't have to toggle between different apps and can focus on the work directly from the place they spend their work time, which is still Outlook for the most part. Now, Harmony 365 solves the two-app conundrum, this idea of working with multiple apps. In this case, for records, it's email and SharePoint. It also will increasingly include Teams over time. And what it does is it helps you do the 3 and actually 4 main pillars of what you need to do in order to conquer information chaos in Microsoft 365. Problem number 1, you need to capture emails and documents into SharePoint, the centralized repository from Outlook, so that it can be stored in a centralized place and be set as a record. Secondly, you need to classify that information using metadata, make that easy for people to do so that information can later be found. A lot of times you just dump things into SharePoint, it becomes a document and an email graveyard, and while you may have fulfilled governance or compliance requirements for storage, you won't meet the requirements for things like audits and discovery later on. Pillar number 3, being able to find that stuff afterwards. So metadata is part of it, storage using metadata, but also having the tools and services to be able to find that information and discover it quickly across the different Microsoft 365 apps. So you're not searching necessarily in SharePoint. It could be in SharePoint, it could be in Teams, it could be in OneDrive. You really need to be able to find that information regardless of whichever centralized Microsoft 365 repository you put that information. And fourth of all, which is probably less important in an information management from a record standpoint, is to be able to share that information with colleagues. Microsoft 365 has introduced some very nice ad hoc sharing capabilities that allow you, if your organization permits that, to be able to share information with colleagues who may not necessarily have default access to it. And Harmony extends that capability within the Outlook sidebar so that people can do that without having to navigate to different places. Again, the concept, do information management without doing information management. That's the key to this whole story. So now we're going to switch over to a demo. There's nothing tells a story like a demo. They always say a picture tells 1,000 words. So a demo probably tells 10,000 words if it's a moving demo. So we are going to switch over to this. And what you see in front of you is your Outlook window. All of you are familiar with the Outlook window. And what you'll notice on the right side of the screen is the Harmony window. This is the Harmony sidebar. And what the Harmony sidebar includes, let's go up to the top of this. You can see the what you see when you start, is it's a view of your Microsoft 365. Let's collapse everything so you can see everything, how it looks when you open it. It's a view of your Microsoft 365 content repositories right in your Outlook window. So your users, oftentimes the best thing we hear from our customers, 1,300 enterprise customers, and the thing that they say most, it's the best compliment that we get is people don't even realize that they're using something that's not Outlook. They believe that this is something that's part of their environment, and it's not an outside product that provides this capabilities. Right in your Outlook window, you have access, full access to your Microsoft 365 repositories. That's SharePoint, that's your Teams repositories, and even OneDrive, all in the same place. And you can, of course, navigate and drill down and get to places and open them up and see the information right here. So, for example, if I would go to this IT projects, and I look at the documents view, I can see all the documents, I can see all the folders, I can get all the information, I can set the columns, I can see all the metadata that I want. And of course, there's ability to set up views. So I won't, maybe I'll show this later on, but you can set up your own views so that you can have the information organized whichever way is most convenient. And of course, provision this to your users so that when they come in, that's exactly what they see out of the gate. The basic capabilities of Harmony and Harmony 365 is quite simple. I can take an email. So I have this email that came in and it has an attachment. And I can literally just drag it into my SharePoint location and it is uploaded into SharePoint. Now what you notice is I'm prompted to add metadata. Of course, this is set up in terms of how your SharePoint environment is set up. All the things you see are a reflection of what's happening in your SharePoint site. So if your SharePoint site has required metadata, this particular location, you will be prompted in Harmony. There's no special settings, there's no special security settings that need to be set on Harmony. It's all reading from the capabilities and requirements that you have already set up on your Microsoft 365 environment. So in this case, this location has required metadata. I have to specify a meeting ID. You see it's denoted here by the red dot. So I'll add a couple of, just to give it a meeting ID. Many of the things here are just taking from default values. And of course, if I have things like this, I have pop-ups. All the things that are supported make it super easy. You know, there's drop downs, there's selection boxes, all the things that make it super easy for people to just fill in the information. Many customers, if they have multiple metadata fields, often are given defaults. They only have to select maybe 2 or 3. Makes it very simple for people to fulfill the information management requirements. I click save. Because this is creating a new version of the document, I have the ability to add comments and keep it checked out afterwards. And now it's checked in. this email is checked in with the attachment and available to other people in that SharePoint location. From an information management standpoint, one of the critical things we need to do, particularly if this is a document of record, is to be able to set this as a record and set the retention policies, the Microsoft retention policies. So I can literally just click on this, right click on it, and you see apply a retention label, and I'm going to set this as a record label. And once I do that, you'll see that there's a little, it's maybe hard to see on the screen, but there's a little lock that appears in the corner of the icon next to the email message in SharePoint. What that means is that now this has been set as a record. In SharePoint, it has all the capabilities and properties and characteristics of a record in SharePoint. And if you'd open it from the browser, you'd see that this is also set as a record. So this is absolutely makes it super easy for your typical business workers to be compliant and do what you need in order to get a grip on information chaos. So capturing information and classifying it, setting as a record, we've showed how simple this can be in order to be able to capture and classify that information to be compliant with information management requirements. So now we talked about the requirements of being able to, for information management, is to capture, to classify. The third leg of that is related to discovering that information. So we provide a lot of tools to make it very simple for people to be able to find that information directly in SharePoint. Maybe for the purposes of the demo, I'm just going to shut off this camera, make it easier for you to see the demo itself. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at how do you capturing information, classifying that for use in for information management is important, but if you can't find the stuff, you've only done half the work. So let's see how we make this really easy to do. And we're going to go up to this folder, and we're going to start searching for information. So Harmony has built into it a fantastic search capability. So I can just do search by text, and I can search for that text across the very different locations. So one of the problems with search is that if you search too narrow, you don't come up with the results. If you search too broadly, you end up with too many results, and then it's hard to find that information. Harmony understands that and provides a plethora of tools to be able to set the search scope exactly what you need to get as much information as you need without overloading you across multiple apps. So we're searching now across SharePoint, we're searching across Teams, and we're searching across OneDrive. So I'm going to search for test, and you can see here that the search scope, right now I can search in the current site or all locations. I can also drill down. If I go down into a lower level and I do the same search, so I'm going to search test here. Now I can see that I can either search in this current library, the current site, or current location. So I'm going to search in the library here, and I find a couple of results. Okay, that's not what I was looking for, so let's extend the search scope a little bit. Let's look at the current site. And in the current site, nothing more. Okay, so maybe I need to go to all locations. I'm not exactly sure where I stored that test document. And now what I see is I'm searching across all the sites that I'm connected to in Harmony. So it's all my again, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams sites. And now you can see at the bottom, I've got 398 items. My goodness, that is way too many. There's no way I'm going to be able to plow through this and find what I'm looking for. But not to worry, because we have a number of tools to help you narrow down that search scope. So one of the things you'll see here in the column is you see that we have the Microsoft 365 app where this information is stored. So you see that there's some here from SharePoint, there's some here in OneDrive, some in Teams. If I click at the top of the column, I can either sort by that or I can filter by app. So I'm saying, okay, I want to find that test document. I know it's in SharePoint. I want to find it only in SharePoint. Okay, so now I've narrowed it down by not too much. So that's not what I'm looking for. So maybe I want to see it's an email maybe that I'm looking for. So now I can click at the top of the icon column and also select what type of document I'm looking for. So I can find all the different types of documents, and I select an email. Well, that doesn't really help too much. And I can continue drilling down and continuing to filter also on other columns as well. until I finally get down to where it is. So it's, for example, if I just say clear this filter, and now I say I'm going to look in Teams. So in Teams, I only found one. This is maybe the message I'm looking for. Very easy to do. These are fully visible. I can preview these, open them, and work on them, check them out, and work on them directly from here without having to lose context by leaving Outlook, going to a browser, and finding a different user interface, user experience. It's all done in the place where people spend their work time. Very simple to do in Outlook. Now, we've added some fantastic capabilities here with the ability to not only search by text, but also search by using metadata. So let's go back to, going to up a bit. We're going to go to the IT projects, and now we're going to search through by metadata. So when I click on this, you'll see that I can search from the emails. What we do is we capture the email headers when you drag an email into Harmony, into the sidebar, so you can now search to and from. All the email header information is captured as metadata. And I'm just going to look for maybe something else that we can capture here. So one of the things we've included here is client name. So we've used this as a as one of our important metadata fields, and I'm going to say I'm going to search for client as KPMG, and I don't find anything here. So let's extend the scope, and again, by extending the scope, I didn't find anything here. So always the always the demo demons, but this this is the way you can use all the metadata fields to be able to find that information. Okay, so we've looked at capturing information, classifying information, now searching for information. One of the last things we can do is also looking for sharing information. So sharing information in a way that's very easy and to do. So maybe just one other thing before I do that is to show that we've also included two new things in Harmony 365. Is besides having the access to the repositories, SharePoint, Teams, and OneDrive, we've also added favorites so that sites that you use often you can access directly from here, and without having to drill down and find them through the hierarchy, and also access to recent files and locations. So this is super helpful if you're working on a project and you always are working from the same location rather than having to navigate to it each time. You can make it very simple to just get there from here. Now, under the OneDrive, you also notice that we have a entry here that says shared with me. And when I click on that, what we'll see here is a series of documents that have been ad hoc shared with me. So one of the things that Microsoft 365 has added is the ability to share, again, if your organization allows you to share content that is not, people don't have default access to. So I can see all the views of all the documents that have been shared with me directly by other people, which is excellent. So I don't have to be able to have a tough time finding it. But I can also do the same by share with other people. So for example, let's find a, I want to share this email document with a colleague. I can simply right click on it and I do share. And now what I get, because my organization allows me to, and this is often a question people ask at this point, is can this be blocked if we don't want to allow people to share information? Again, what we're doing is we're reading the permissions that are assigned to this person who's logged into SharePoint, and or what that person can do in the Microsoft 365 environment. So there's no additional requirements or setups or policies that have to be defined. We're reading directly from the existing policies. So if your organization allows you to share this, then this feature is available. And of course, all the capabilities that appear here about whether you need to have a password, expiration date, who can get this document, again, have access to it. This is all stuff that is, we're reading directly from SharePoint, and this is what's available through the Harmony interface. So I'm going to share this document with my good friend Harmon Young, and I'm not going to send him a message, I'm going to send it. And Harmon now got a link, and now Harmon has access to this document that he didn't have access to before, and it makes it very easy, and it extends the capabilities and the share capabilities that Microsoft 365 provides to people directly from email, again, doing information management without doing information management. So this is absolutely critical to make things easy for people to do. So just before I finish this portion of the demo, I just want to summarize. What we've shown is making it easy for people in Microsoft 365 to be able to capture, classify, discover information, share information within the policies and governance parameters that are provided within your existing organization, simply by surfacing the information within Outlook and making it easy for people to do what you ask them to do without having to learn new interfaces. And that's really the key. You know, technology is easy. Getting people to do things differently is very difficult. By making it simple, this is the key to success in information management with Microsoft 365. So I'm going to turn it back over to Maya to actually just maybe another word here before I turn it over to Maya for a demo. Now, we've looked at SharePoint. Maybe one other thing before I go back to this that I didn't show was that you also have the capability of dragging an information into a Teams location. So you can put it into a Teams folder in exactly the same way that you do in SharePoint or in OneDrive. So if I open up Teams, these are the Teams I'm say accounts, and I can simply take the same.
David, sorry,
Hmm?
I
Yep.
already launched the poll, so we cannot see the
Okay.
your screen until I close it. So
Okay.
let's give a few seconds for people to answer, and then we will see
Okay.
what you are showing us. So the question is, has Microsoft Teams made it easier to find important information? I see that most of you already answered. Okay, so I will see the results, and then we'll get back to you.
Okay, so has Microsoft Teams made it easier to find important information? About a quarter say, a little bit more than a quarter say it's much easier, a quarter say it's slightly easier, and about the other half say there's no change or it's harder to find information. So that's encouraging. I think it shows that people are finding Teams very useful and being able to work and to use information and to use important information. So moving on, I'm just going to talk about Email Teammate, which is a new product from Harmony. It is included, if you're an existing Harmony customer, it is included in your subscription. And what it does is it also resides in the place where people are spending increasingly more time, which is in Teams. And it allows you to pull emails that you received from customers, partners, or suppliers directly into a Teams conversation. So again, what we're solving is what we call the multiple app conundrum, which is that you now have multiple places to spend your work time. You're either in Teams, you're in Outlook. Those are the two places, and of course you've got the back end of SharePoint and OneDrive where documents are stored. You want to be able to allow your employees to access the information from the place that are already spending their time. So we showed how we made that very easy from Outlook by dragging information into SharePoint. I didn't show it in Teams, but you drag it into Teams channels exactly the same way you should drag it into SharePoint locations. And now what I'd like to do briefly is show how, when you start working in Teams, how you can pull in information from email to make it super easy for people to get help from colleagues, for example. So let's take an example. You see my Teams screen. I'm in a conversation. I'm in a Teams channel here, and I'm having a conversation. I'm going to start a new conversation. And what I'm interested here is getting help from my colleagues. I received an email from a customer. I don't know how to answer that, and I want to turn to my team for help. The old way of doing it was sending an email to the team. One person would answer, we'd start this endless thread that would make it very difficult to roll back and see exactly what happened. Harmony with Email Teammate makes it much smoother and streamlines this process. Instead, what I can do in my conversation is I can simply add by clicking on the Email Teammate icon. It's an app, it's a Teams app that you add to Teams. And what it does is it surfaces my inbox. So I can look at my emails. I can also, if I want, change my inbox to other different mailboxes that I use. I also have the search capability, but this gives me my email view directly in Teams. And say now this is the email that I want to share. I click on that. Of course, I can view the email before I send it, just to make sure that that's what I want. I can add the attachment or not add the attachment. I have the capability of doing that, but I'm going to add the attachment here and just do share. And once I do that share, I have the capability here. I can say to the team, please help me answer this email. And I do enter. And now my entire team sees the email. They have access to the document. We can have a conversation here. And at the end of that process, one of us can click reply all. And when we do that, it launches an Outlook window that allows you to reply directly to the client. So the entire record is stored in email, but the conversation is held in a very organized fashion in Teams, exactly the way Teams was supposed to be. So what we're doing is, again, bringing together the Microsoft 365 apps in such a way that allows people to use them in a way that they can be more productive without having to do context switching. And for organizations, it helps take advantage of the immense investment you've made in Microsoft 365 to use these tools out of the box to allow people to do information and achieve your information management, governance, compliance, and regulatory goals. Okay, maybe just to wrap up, I just want to make it clear about how these products work together and how you get them. So for existing Harmony customers, Harmony 365 is a new version of the traditional Harmony Outlook desktop product. It brings Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive together. The new version is really critical if you're a customer to upgrade to this version. It includes critical security updates for Microsoft 365 customers. We've done some incredible things in terms of security and removing the need for password storage. We also have, for existing customers, an incredible tool, which is a site URL migration. So if you're on SharePoint on premises with Harmony and you have favorites set up in your environment, we have an automated tool that allows you to migrate directly to Microsoft 365. We have customers who've used this to migrate 600,000 URLs seamlessly without having to do all that work. So if you think about the migration effort that's needed to do that type of work, we've vastly reduced it into something which is much more manageable. So if you're a Harmony 365 customer, you absolutely must upgrade. If you're a Harmony customer, you must absolutely upgrade to the Harmony 365 version, which you have access to. One other thing I urge you to do is to look at our case study about, I talked a little bit about this, this customer before. It's the Employment and Social Development of Canada, the Government of Canada, 32,000 workers who migrated to Microsoft 365 during the COVID pandemic in 3 months. 30,000 people moved in 3 months, and they're moving together with Harmony to solve their information management. Again, Alex Sinch, who is the Executive Business Director of Business Solutions Information Management, he's the one who came up with this quote saying that the key of Harmony is allows this organization to do information management without doing information management. So if you're interested in this, you can find it on our site. We'll make it available as well. And there's also the ability to download for existing customers. There's a link here to get the new version, the Harmony 365 version. And for not yet customers, there's the ability to get a 30-day free trial either using this QR code or the URL that's listed here. So Maya, we're going to go to our final poll question.
Yeah. Another way to receive the enterprise trial is to answer yes for this question, and we will send it to you automatically. Okay, I think that everyone has answered. Okay. David, do you want to move to the Q&A section?
Sure.
Okay. Someone is asking, will the recording be shared? Yes, we will send an email with the recording probably tomorrow. Can you search by metadata?
Yeah, so I showed how you search by metadata. You can search across. The beauty of this is that you can search, you can set the search scope so you can find information. If you have custom metadata, enterprise keywords, manage metadata, it's easy to set up so that you can make it easy for folks to search directly in Outlook, in the Outlook window, without having to go to the browser and start finding it. So that's a key new feature available in this Harmony 365 edition.
Thank you. When sharing items in a library, does it also provide the user with permissions, or does the user need to have permissions set up in order for them to actually see the document?
So again, what we're doing is we're showing the information. Everything you can do in Harmony is information, are policies that are set up in SharePoint. So what we're doing is the Harmony sidebar is a client technology, and you are logged into your Microsoft 365 account through the sidebar. So any of the capabilities and permissions that you have in Microsoft 365 are surfaced through the sidebar. If you don't have access to that document or email, you will not have access to it through Harmony either. There's no additional policies or any sort of security settings that need to be set up. It's all transparent directly from Microsoft 365.
Thank you. Another question, does Harmony work in Web Outlook 365?
Yeah, so there's a version of Harmony, which is not the desktop app. It's a OWA version, which works in the web. It works on the Mac. It works on mobile devices. It's not as full featured as the desktop, but it has the capabilities that I showed here of being to upload documents and emails with metadata. It also allows you, one of the things I didn't show is the ability to drag documents and emails into emails so that you can send them as links instead of attachments, so that you have secure links. If people don't have access to that links, you can't, you won't make a mistake of sending in people information that they shouldn't see. Those things are provided in the web app as well.
Thank you. Another question, does Harmony 365 work with SharePoint on premises?
So absolutely. Harmony 365, the key is surfacing and enabling a lot of the new Microsoft 365 capabilities, but it does work with Microsoft with SharePoint on premises as well. Of course, the capabilities that are provided in Microsoft 365 that are not in SharePoint on premises will not be available through Harmony because there's no backend support for those features. But you can use the same version of Harmony to work with your on-premises environment. You can also, of course, work in a hybrid environment where some of your sites are 365, some of your sites are on premises. Wherever that support Microsoft capabilities are available, the users see that automatically. There's no configuration required, and it's really quite simple. In fact, from a migration standpoint, we find that customers who are on premises and move to Microsoft 365, one of the keys is maintaining a uniform user experience. So again, people don't have to learn the product. They can just focus on doing work. And that's another key value when you move to Microsoft 365 from an on-premises environment.
Thank you. The last question we'll answer today is, how do I get email teammate?
So email teammate, if you're an existing Harmony subscriber, you can get it directly from our download page on the website, and there are instructions on how to get that. It is a Teams app that is available in the App Source, and you can get from us, you can get a coupon that enables you to use it. If you're not a Harmony customer, a subscriber, you can still try it out for free by going to the App Source, the Microsoft App Store, and searching for Email Teammate, and you can install it in your own Teams environment, try it out for free before you need to require to buy a subscription for it.
Thanks, David. We didn't have time to answer all of your questions, so if we didn't answer your question, someone will answer you via email. Thank you, David, for a great presentation, and thank all of you for joining us today. You will receive an email with the link to view this webinar again within a couple of days, and we look forward to meeting you again at our next webinar. Bye-bye.